Before we get started, let's take a look at our previous code once refactored. Now it looks much better, and most important of all, it won't crash if we provide a badly formatted URL and NSURL returns a nil. However, even though it does look good, it still sucks. It blocks the main queue. So we're going to fix this. First of all, we need to find the line that is blocking. Can you spot it just by looking at the code? Yep, it's this one, the NSData one. That's the one that downloads the hued image and stuff it into an NSData. We need to send this fellow to a background queue. Actually, the next line where we convert this NSData into a UI image might also take some time, although much less. So let's send both to the background. But hold on, UI image belongs to UI kit. So we should never use it in the main queue. Well, no, not really. Not all of UI kit is thread unsafe. There are a few exceptions, such as UI image. However, all the visual stuff, the views, are unsafe. So changing the image property here, that must be done in the main queue. Always remember the famous haiku from Zen Master Basho. If the name ends in view, it belongs in the main queue. First of all, let's create a queue from scratch. So the first step is to create the URL. Now that we have the URL, we need to create a queue from scratch. To create a queue from scratch, we use the function dispatch queue create, and it takes two parameters. The first one is just a name. You can put there whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. And the second one tells GCD what kind of queue you want. Nil, in this case, tells GCD that we want a synchronous or serial queue. Otherwise, you would have to use a different constant that you can check on the documentation to create an asynchronous queue, but we're not going to use those in this course. The following step is to call dispatch async. It will take two parameters, the queue, in this case download, and the closure. Although notice that here I'm using the trailing closure syntax. So in here is where we need to download the NSData, turn it into a UI image, and then display it. Let's get started. Once we have the queue, we can call dispatch async and send, encapsulate in a closure, the offending code and send it to the background. However, we have a problem here. We're downloading the image in the background queue. We're turning it into a UI image also in the background queue, but we need to run this code and display this image in the main queue. How could we do this? How can we hop from a background queue to the main queue? Well, I've been hinting it for some time. You've got to think of Inception with dreams within dreams. In this case, it's closures within closures. So from within the background closure in here, we're going to get a reference to the main queue and then call dispatch async within this closure and send another closure to the main queue. So basically we're going to start here in the background, and once we reach this point, we're going to jump to the main queue. Let's see how we can do this. Let's take a look at this code again. So first of all, we jump to the background, run a few lines of code that will block, and once we're done with this, we jump to the main queue using the same function, dispatch async, but this time we're providing the main queue with dispatch get main queue. And within this closure that will run in the main queue, we set the image for the image view. So this way we make sure that all of the code that updates the UI runs in the main queue. So this is not only efficient, it's absolutely safe. And this is the true beauty of Grand Central Dispatch. It makes asynchronous code look like it's serial, which is easier to understand one line after the other, while you're actually hopping from one queue to the other queue. Before we move on, let's make sure that this code actually does not block. So let's run it and take a look. So let's try again. The synchronous, it blocks. See? And let's try the asynchronous. See that it just kind of blips. And that's it. So even though it seems like it's instantaneous, it's actually downloading the image in the background. So let's get here. And once we click here, it just blinks, and we can, while it's downloading, you can use the UI. So far, looks good. Let's move to the next step and implement this last method. This is kind of your graduation for this lesson. It's an asynchronous method with a completion closure. Let's give it a try.